We'd like to call the work session to order, and the only thing on our work session is to review the agenda. Are there any questions on the consent agenda, which are the minutes and statements and checks and the treasurer's report? No comment? Okay. Attorney's report? Okay. Budget amendment number 6. This budget amendment was added we have one of our employees who last year we approved the purchase of 3 trucks for the ordinance department, and one of our employees she was in an accident and she's coming back to work May 1st. So we're going to order the trucks so that we have enough trucks for the ordinance department. The next, any questions on the budget amendment? The next item is a request to sell 955 Auburndale to Habitat for Humanity. And this is working with the Washtenaw Community College and the Youth Build program that they're having. This is the first house that they're doing together, and we have a lot on Auburndale, and we're actually going to sell it to Habitat if the Township Board agrees, and have Habitat assist with the Youth Build and the Washtenaw Community College. So they received a grant. It's pretty exciting, to teach kids these skills and to do in building. So we're very excited about that. Are there any questions on the Youth Build? No? The next item is to abandon interest in certain undeveloped platted park. So it's the first time we've done this other than for alleys, I think, right? This is the first one I'm aware of. So there's a existing plat of an old subdivision that was not built but approved, and there's a part of it that is the park that they're going to requesting to be abandoned. Is that correct? Correct. And in order to do that, because it's an approved plat, the only way to abandon it is to go through this process and to file it in court. Correct? Michael? Yeah, could you?
Good afternoon. This is a request from, this is Mike Radzik with the Office of Community Standards. This request comes from a gentleman, a local builder by the name of Dale LeClaire, who happens to live right on Hewitt Road, immediately in front of this parcel of land. And myself, our planners, and our attorney's office have been working with him and his attorney for the last couple of months to get to this point. He also worked with the township during the last master plan update. And as a result of the master plan update, this land, which you can see up on the screen there, is a continuation of Collegewood Drive to the east, and then a continuation of Malbash to the north off Washtenaw, where both of those roads currently dead end. That is all just open, vacant land, fields right now. And the future vision is he and some other landowners around him plan a future office development. And in anticipation of that, they worked with the township and its planners during the last master plan update. And that land is currently zoned residential, but is future designated as office to fit that future potential development. So this process, he first went to the Washtenaw County Road Commission, and the Board of Road Commissioners voted to abandon those streets, which were on paper but never built and continued. And then the next step is to have the park property, which is about 4/10 of an acre, abandoned as well. Our assessor's office shows it's currently a township-owned property, but again, it was never built and developed, so it's just vacant land. Mr. LeClaire has to file a lawsuit in the circuit court under state law in order to get that park abandoned, and he can't do that without a resolution of support from Ypsilanti Township. So he came to us, our attorney's office worked with his counsel to develop this resolution that's before you tonight. If the board votes to approve it, he would then take that resolution with him to circuit court to complete the abandonment process, which would then pave the way for the future office development of that property. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you.
Other questions or comments? Trustee Eldridge?
I just wanted to clarify, because maybe I just want to make sure.
Turn your mic on.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to clarify, make sure I knew this for myself. When you say park, is that just a park of the area that is in between those two particular buildings, or is that an actual park?
It's currently just vacant land.
Okay.
If you look at the aerial photo or just go out there, it's at the corner of, just north of the corner of Hewitt and Washtenaw.
Okay.
If you can picture in your mind's eye where Tim Hortons is, immediately north behind Tim Hortons, all that vacant land that's got some scrub trees and just some brush, that is exactly where that is. And on paper, when it was platted, Collegewood Drive, where it currently dead ends, was supposed to be developed to continue to Washtenaw. The same with Roosevelt Boulevard, and then Malbesh would have connected. None of that currently exists. It's all vacant land. And so we refer to it as a park because if it were ever developed as approved, it would have been a small, less than a half-acre township park.
Okay.
But it's never been developed. There are right-of-ways for the adjoining streets that have already been abandoned by the road commission, and so this would complete that process.
Okay, so it's an undeveloped parked area.
It is exactly.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Eldridge?
Mike, I'm sure I'm just missing it in the readings. Is there a reason that we're abandoning it as township property and not selling it as we've done with other parcels? Because he's going to then turn it into a for-profit business location.
I don't know the answer to that question, quite honestly. I think that's more of a legal question, and we could have counsel either answer that or research that. Although it is, according to the assessor record, it shows ownership by Ypsilanti Township. I think that's just by virtue of the fact that it was intended in the future to be a township park, but was never developed. And we're not maintaining it at this point, to my knowledge. It's just part of that vacant land, and so with the streets around it already having been abandoned, and if the park were abandoned, it's my understanding that all of that abandoned right-of-way would then be divided by all of the property owners around it and would become extensions of those private properties for future development. So I don't have an answer to your question, Trustee Eldridge, and maybe counsel could weigh in for us.
Well, I think Mike spent a lot of time with Denny and Carl Franken as the attorney for Mr. LeClaire. And the process right here, I don't know if this really is township property. I don't think it's more of a paper ownership more than actual legal ownership. I know it's got to go, it has to be assigned to somebody by the assessing department, but I don't really think there's a real legal claim on this property or this portion that we're talking about here. And given the configuration, given the master plan, and this has always been a property, part of the township where there's been some challenges as to how to get this property developed. It's gone through different reviews at different times. I think at one time there was going to be a residential extension over there at one point in time. So I think it's been more of a encumbrance upon development than anything that has any real value. So I'm not sure we actually even own this, and I'm spending a lot of time and money trying to do the title work. If they want to run with this and go to circuit court to try and have it abandoned so they can do something with it, and the township's benefit will be is having that property developed into an office setting that would be new construction, and that would be the win-win for the township. And Mike, you might have been involved in those discussions with Denny and Carl that I wasn't involved with, so I don't know if there's any real claim of ownership on this parcel.
I had never heard that there was prior to tonight, and I know it's just an inquiry at this point, but neither our counsel, Mr. McLean, or Mr. Franken for Mr. LeClaire indicated that there was any possessory ownership of this. It's designated as public right-of-way, the same as the streets were. and the streets were never built, the park was never built, and so the public right-of-way essentially would be abandoned and split among the surrounding property owners to make way for this future development of office space.
Other comments or questions? Is the petitioner here?
The petitioner is not, and he sent word by email late last week through his counsel that he's not able to attend due to his health situation. And he also represented to myself and Mr. McLean that for him personally, due to his health circumstances, there is some sense of urgency. He's trying to get this accomplished in the time that he has left.
So, and the residents have been notified in the area?
I'm not sure of. I'm not sure what process the road commission may have gone through for the abandonment process. It may be part of the circuit court action that there would be a mandatory notification. But maybe Doug may know better.
I know right now the township is going through the process of trying to abandon an alley. I can't remember the location, and we have to notify, I think, about 300 more residents in regards to the alley we're trying to abandon in one of the subdivisions. I think it's on Andrea Street. And Andrea. Right. And so there is a process of notification, but all this does is allow him to have more of a legal standing to go to court to follow that process. So it can be a very cumbersome process, a lot of notification, and to have a plat become vacated, it's not something that's very easy to do. And so I wish them well in trying to do this if the board so approves, because given what we've gone through in trying to abandon that one
An alley.
alley to give the property to the adjoining property owners, it's been quite a learning experience. It's what you have to go through with the notification, the Attorney General, the county. It just goes on in regards to trying to accomplish what might look like to be a very simple task. It's not nearly that simple. So all the notification will be borne by Mr. LeClaire, because this just gives him an opportunity to go to court to say,
Correct.
would you please consider this petition? So,
Right.
I'm not sure, but I would think the residents would appreciate the road not going through to their home, but I'm not sure.
I do recall there was some communication between our offices and the road commission prior to them taking action to abandon the road. And if memory serves me correctly, although they could not mandate it, they strongly suggested to the developer that Collegewood and Malbesh be connected, to make that connection there without taking it out to Hewitt Road. And I wanted to remind the board that if the applicant is successful in getting the park abandoned and then trying to develop the property, it would require a rezoning in order to develop it as office space, and that whole project would come not only to the Planning Commission, but under rezoning to the Township Board for approval. So we would have an opportunity to weigh in and make sure it was as we thought it should be in the best interest of the community.
And the road commission has already adopted their resolution?
Yes, and there is a copy of their
Yeah, I
action.
see that. I was just wondering, is this a time-sensitive issue?
It is for the applicant
Okay.
due to his health situation. Beyond that, I don't think there's any time.
I do know once you go to circuit court, like Attorney Winter stated, they have to notify everybody. Just want to make sure the residents want it. I think they do, but I don't know, Okay.
Well, I know if it's ever going to be redeveloped in the future through Planning Commission and Board action, there is definitely a mandatory notification to the surrounding property
I know we
owners.
went in and made improvements there because it was so bad, remember?
Yeah, we paved Collegewood
Yeah.
up to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
terrible.
Because it didn't have a,
Turnaround.
right, it wasn't a accepted maintenance road by the county.
Yes. And our ordinance staff has done code enforcement on this vacant land from time to time. The most recent was I think it was 2 years ago.
The encampment.
There was a encampment of homeless individuals that were there, and Mr. LeClaire actually stepped up and assisted them, offered them housing and employment, and was very kind to them, and it ended up resolving itself without the need for us to go any further.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is it, I guess you say, a possibility to try and notify the residents maybe within the next, I don't know, if it has to be voted on today, well, then it will be, but between, I guess you could say, maybe now and the next meeting, I'm just, I'm just a little bit uncomfortable with not knowing if the residents have been notified in that area.
Whatever the board's pleasure is. The nearest, the map that's in your packet is a little bit misleading. All of those individual parcels to the north and south is actually all vacant land. The nearest home would be to the west along Collegewood, prior to where it dead ends. And then Mr. LeClaire himself actually lives on Hewitt Road, almost in front of that or next to that park. And then the Tim Hortons restaurant is further to the south. And to the north is Ypsilanti city limits, where the Convocation Center and I believe housing development already exists.
So what lot number is the
The
next
park
house?
is the triangular,
Oh, I
almost
see the park,
triangular.
but I mean,
yeah.
as far as the lots, are any of the developed lots on this map?
No.
Okay.
Well, just to the west of where the darkened area where Mulbesh and Collegewood dead end there.
Madam Chair, and I just wanted to clarify, Mike, that you said we're not maintaining this piece of land right now anyways?
Correct.
Okay.
It was never developed as a park, and therefore we have had no maintenance requirements or interest in it.
Any other questions or comments? All right. The next item on the agenda is request to approve the agreement with Washtenaw County Road Commission for their local road dust control in the amount of $5,682. We do this every year. It's for the dirt roads in the township to keep the dust down. Any questions? Number 5 is request of Mike Radzik, OCS Director, for authorization to seek legal action if necessary to abate the public nuisances for property located at 940 Minion, 1405 E-Course, 3150 West Michigan, and 829 East Michigan Avenue.
Hello again. The first item is a 2-acre parcel at 940 Minion. If you can picture in your mind's eye, there's a GIS aerial included here, but Minion Drive is a private road that runs to the east off Emmerich Street, right where Emmerich and E-Course intersect, just south of Michigan Avenue, behind R&L Trucking. There's some auto-related businesses. There it is. So on the far left of this GIS photo, you'll see where E-Course and Emmerich intersect, and then Minion is the private road that runs to the east. Left to right along the top of that photograph, all the way at the end of Minion, in the blue shaded area, is this 2-acre parcel that we're concerned with. And what's occurred is it was vacant land with a lot of trees, and there is a cell tower in the northwest corner of that property that was constructed under an approved site plan from Ypsilanti Township Planning and Board of Trustees back in 2000, I believe it was. And up until recently, nothing else had occurred on that land. Immediately to the west or to the left of that blue shaded parcel is a building that's divided in half, and half of that building is being leased by a company known as Cobb Express. They're a trucking firm. And they, we're not sure exactly when, but sometime in the recent past, someone clear-cut all the trees and the brush from that entire 2-acre parcel, which is fenced. And as you can see, on the bottom of the photo is Hawthorne Street, and there are 4 or 5 homes along Hawthorne that directly share a property line with that parcel. We became aware of this several weeks ago when some of those property owners called us, and they were highly upset because of the noise, and trailers where there were formerly woods, essentially, there is now semi-trailers backed up and parked there, along with the noise, and there appears to be some changes in the direction and flow of stormwater when it rains, which is also impacting their properties. So, having said all that, our ordinance officers went out there, took some photographs from the closest legal vantage point that they were able to do so. And our planners have done some research, and it appears as though whoever took this action violated our woodland protection ordinance, our soil erosion ordinance, and it's also a serious violation of the existing site plan for that property. And so we're asking for authorization to engage through legal counsel to try to resolve this, which I don't know what the resolution will be, because it can't be restored the way it was, at least not very easily. But we'd like to engage not only with the owners of this property, but the company that's using it, as well as the adjoining properties that must be traveled on in order to access this particular parcel. So it's a bit of a complicated nuisance problem at this time. Happy to answer any questions on that one that you may have.
Any questions or comments? And this was reported by the houses that back up to the property?
The residents on Hawthorne Street, yes.
Okay.
We were not aware of it until they called us. The next request is for 1405 Ecorse Road. This is a commercial building being used by the Harry G. Parks Frontier Lodge and the Anna G. Park Temple, most commonly referred to as the Elks Club, which you may know it as. It is a private club for a nonprofit organization. They do have a state liquor license. It's a private club license for service of liquor to their members and their members' guests. There have unfortunately been some incidents there, some shooting incidents and some other violent crimes over time, but most recently, the most recent one was several weeks ago. And over the last several years, when there have been incidents of this nature, both the Sheriff's Office and Community Standards Office have sat down and met. I've met myself with Mr. Williamson, Anthony Williamson, who is one of the leaders of the organization. We've met several times, as well as with some others in the past. And there's been some very productive and open dialogue about things that could be done to minimize or eliminate these types of incidences. And there's also some property maintenance problems at the property. We do a property maintenance inspection for the renewal of liquor licenses every year. Under state law, the township has the opportunity to file an objection to the renewal of the license, which expires in April every year. So we come through in January, February generally and look for code violations, and there's usually a very good response to the property maintenance violations, with one glaring exception, which has been the condition of the parking lot. It's been cited in past years, and it was cited again this year. And it's my understanding when talking with the group leadership that it's simply a matter of finances in order to, the parking lot would probably need to be completely redone. And it's at a point now where it does constitute a hazard, both for pedestrians and for motorists, and needs to be repaired. So for those reasons, we feel as though in order to permanently and successfully resolve this in a mutually agreeable way, we would like authorization to engage with legal counsel and have their assistance in this endeavor, to be filed only if it's deemed necessary, and to try to resolve this going forward. And I do know that there are some people here tonight from this organization, and they may or may not. I'm sure they would probably like to weigh in at some point, so I just wanted to make the board aware of that.
Okay.
I did have an opportunity to speak with some representatives both over the weekend and again this morning or this afternoon. And anyway, they wanted to be here tonight, and they are here tonight to speak to you.
Okay.
If there's any questions on that one, I'll go forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike, you said you met recently over the weekend with some of the members. How did those conversations go? Do they have a action plan or idea of how to move forward to not have to go this route?
I only had one conversation, and it was by phone over the weekend. It was either Saturday or Sunday with Mr. Mike Cobb, who I've known for 35 years at the Sheriff's Department, and he's been affiliated and has helped them with security on different things in the past. Prior to that, I've met both at the Elks Club with Mr. Williamson and other members of the group, and prior to that, I think dating back to 2011, we met with the leaders. I remember, I think Mr. Huddleston had been in at least one of those meetings before, and there was some correspondence and letters back and forth about the township offered to take some steps, which we did, and they had agreed to do some things as well. Some were accomplished and some weren't. And so since that time, there have been a number of incidences, and we did ask the Sheriff's Department to give us a catalog summary of all of those, and we've provided that to council to take a look at as we went through the process of trying to evaluate whether this rose to the level of public nuisance in order to come before you. And the consensus was that there was enough evidence and material there to at least warrant authorization of this moving forward in an effort to try to resolve it. And I do know in speaking with Elaine Washington, who called me today, who's been retained on their behalf, that there is a desire on their part to try to mutually resolve this short of litigation, and that would be a legal strategy that I would defer to council on.
Madam Chair. Sorry.
Yes.
Detailing basically how, I guess, some meetings have happened in the past. I guess my concerns is, and obviously there has been meetings in the past, but my concern is to try and see if there's any possible way that we can work and try and obviously abate whatever nuisance is going on before taking it to any type of court action. The reason being is, is not for any special privileges or anything of that nature, but it would be, just not right to, if you set this aside, it would just be set aside. This is the only club or private party or pretty much basically facility on the eastern side of Washtenaw County for primarily African Americans where they facilitate. And with that, I guess I would have some questions in regards to trying to see if the security situation, that maybe is leading to some of these incidents can be addressed. We can't, address the, business operations itself. But as a township, we do have to be mindful of security. And so that would be my primary question. Can that be addressed, and how can we work about, maybe with the club members on getting that issue addressed?
Those are all very good points, and we've discussed, those are actually some of the focal points of previous discussions. The security, because they own the building and the parking lot, and the operators of the establishment are responsible for what occurs both in the building and in their parking lot. And the issue of parking lot security in particular was acknowledged many years ago that it was needed, and I know there have been some efforts over the years on their part to provide that. And we strongly encourage them to do that and to call 911 at the first sign of loitering or trouble so that they could get assistance from the sheriff's deputies on patrol. And so I agree with you. In terms of the legal strategy, what I can tell you in other cases, in many other cases, where we had authorization and then we had an opportunity to meet with the property owners or those involved, if there was a resolution that was agreed upon, we then would take that to circuit court in the form of a consent agreement that both parties consent that this is the resolution and we want to put it on the record so that we have a method to enforce it going forward. And there's no dispute as to who agreed to do what and what the regulations and rules would be. And so that would be my recommendation, and I think council would probably want to weigh in on that as well.
Other comments or questions?
I know just for those that probably haven't been through the process before, I think maybe even some of the new board members, is that it's always our ultimate desire. We never want to file the circuit court action if there's a resolution that can be achieved. And so I think even if it's authorized tonight, it still gives the window. I mean, we encourage that window to resolve, the issues that are facing us. As court is the last place that any of us want to end up going. And so if it can be resolved, it's something that we all look forward to. And that's our practice. Like, even though we authorize, there's a lot of times, a property owner, and a lot of times it's residential homes that they just haven't taken care of. No one lives in them, and landlords aren't taking care of them, and they'll come in on the next day and pull the permits and agree to do whatever, and then we'll hold in abeyance the court, the action. So just because the board authorizes it doesn't mean that we go to court if there's a solution that can be found.
Right. True.
And if, I know Ms. Washington's here as well, but
Sure.
and I've been involved with it since 2008, I think, and I've been to events there, and I'm aware of the good things that the Elks do. The issue is not the people in the room; it's when you run it out, and that's always been the issue. It's never been the members that are none of the members that are here, none of the members that are involved with it. It's just renting it out for parties is when it becomes an issue. And even though there is another club called the Eagles on the east side, and they don't have these type of incidents, and I don't know if it's because they don't rent it out. I don't know, but I'm very concerned about someone dying there. And as a board member, and I know it concerns you guys too. No one wants anything to happen on the property. So when we do this, we always want to have consensus, and we want to work through things. And sometimes we have to go to court. Most of the time we're able to reach an agreement and file that agreement in the court. So authorization tonight doesn't mean we go to court. It just authorizes us to proceed if necessary.
Good afternoon. Elaine Washington, and yes, I have been retained by the club, and I'm coming here just basically to let you know that the club does want to work with the township to try to reach some type of resolution, and I made a phone call to Mr. Rasdick earlier today in an attempt to try to remove it from the agenda. That was my hope. I understand that's not where we ended up, but we are here, and I do understand it, and I have explained to my clients that it doesn't mean that we would be going to court necessarily. We do want to reach a resolution. Of course, I'm not going to get into a debate about what meetings have occurred and what meetings haven't occurred, but I did want to say that, from the club standpoint in my review of it, I'm thinking that it's it's a little premature, and I was hoping that we could get it resolved without it getting to the board. But we are here, and we will work with the township to try to reach a resolution. I have asked Mr. Rasdick to provide me with copies of the documentation that they are relying on to reach this conclusion that they have here today. And so that's kind of where we are right now. I just wanted to stand up since my name had been mentioned, and I am in the room. So thanks.
Thank you very much. We look forward to working this issue out. Would any other members like to speak or say anything? You don't have to, but you're welcome to.
Hi, my name is Jerry Coleman. I'm the executive ruler at the Ypsilanti Elks. Some of the problems, like this last shooting, I know it's our property, but I'm pretty sure the sheriff department has investigated it. The shooting occurred from someone just parking in our parking lot, a person that never came in, had nothing to do with renting the lodge out or anything like that. It wasn't that kind of party. Ypsilanti is a kind of a rough area. I mean, I go to a lot of Elks Lodges, and we have more problems in Ypsilanti than anywhere else. It's not, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Elks. It's the residents here. And my understanding, a guy came from across the street and shot this guy in our parking lot. None of them ever came in our lodge. As soon as we find out about things that's going on in the parking lot that we don't like, we're calling the sheriff department. And it seems as though there seems to be a problem with that now, that we're calling too much. Even though we haven't, it's been a while, but when we were like, we tried a partnership with Washtenaw County, gave them the power of attorney to come out. Anytime we have lauders in there, we put up all the signs. We've done all the things they've asked us to do so far as fixing up the property, except for taking care of the parking lot. And right now, Mr. Huddleston, one of the members at our lodge, we've got we got a plan for fixing that parking lot too. But the shooting that occurred, I don't know really how you stop that. People who don't come in, people you don't even notice in your lot. Somebody comes out of a store and they've had a confrontation before. They drive by and shoot this person, never come in the parking lot, down the street. I don't know how or why that's our fault. You know, they're not coming in our business. You know, they're not coming in, somebody in the parking lot. So right now we've got plans to try and fence in the parking lot. We're going to get security cameras outside of the lodge. But the problem that happened lately, I just don't really know how you fix that without the cooperation of the sheriff department. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is it okay if I would like to ask
Trustee
a clarifying
Rowe.
question, if you don't mind. Can you explain, you said, we were told we were calling too much. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, or is that an experience that you personally had yourself?
No, one of the members told me that the thing was that we were making so many calls at one time, because I've been exalted ruler now, this is my 5th year. We haven't had any problems like that in 6, 7 years, I believe, since before I became the exalted ruler. We've been trying to clean up the image. We're looking for more mature people. And like you were saying, we don't want the young crowd. But the young crowd, anytime you're open and cars are in the parking lot, they will come, they park in the lot, they walk across the street, they pick up liquor. And I've even seen the sheriff department riding down the street, guys, and nobody's stopping to help us to resolve that problem. So we're doing what we can. We're just asking everybody to try and work with us, because we'll do the best we can to keep those kind of things down. All right.
Trustee Ross Williams?
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. I just had a couple of questions, particularly about March 3rd, and I don't know how much you know.
About who?
March 3rd, that's the date that I guess whatever may have happened.
Right.
Now, I know, do you know approximately when the police was called that day? And the reason why I'm asking is because I was actually going down the street at midnight on my way home.
Right.
And I saw, people in front of the club. I saw one sheriff's car, but didn't have lights on, come in on the side. And I think that's Harris. And
Harris
that's
Road.
it. Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going home. So, and I don't know, I'm just kind of curious on when, do you happen to know the time frame of that?
Well, for me, that night just so happened I was visiting another lodge in Highland Park. And so when I got back that night coming from there, because I had parked my car at the lodge and rode with another one of the members. And when I came back, I was really shocked to see all the lights and the parking lot taped off. So I'm not really sure I really can elaborate on what time the incident happened, but I'm sure it probably was some members that was here that probably could elaborate on that. But yeah, I'm not really sure what time it happened.
And the reason why I asked is because I don't know, if people had called already and that was the first response that was given that day. I'm not really sure. I was just trying to, kind of have a little bit.
Well, I don't know if they would have called before because of the fact none of these people ever came in the lodge.
Okay.
We didn't have a problem. It was a nice function going on. I believe these gentlemen had an incident the weekend before. One saw the other one, and it happened. Just so happened he parked in our lot. and this guy, and I'm pretty sure the counties looked at the tapes from across the street. They know exactly what happened, pretty much, and who did what. Because my understanding, one of the guys is in Washtenaw County now. One was released, but I mean, I really couldn't tell you what time it happened.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Lieutenant Morocco.
Lieutenant Mike Morocco with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. I'm responsible for police services here in Ypsilanti Township. And I've worked in Ypsilanti Township for most of my career here. I would like to say that I know on day 2 after this last shooting, we went right out and met. Deputy Rush was out there and spoke with you.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And I can tell you that I don't know if exactly what you're saying is the case, that they were never in there that night. Some of the information that Ms. Washington will be receiving will probably flesh that out a little better. But as an investigation's ongoing, when we're trying to hold people accountable for their actions, we can't really put out all the information of what happened. So I hope you understand that. I can tell you that our goal as the Sheriff's Office is to have a safe and fun community for everybody involved. That's what we're here for. That's why I'm here. And I am dedicated to the job, and I know that the people who work with me are dedicated to the job. We are more than willing to partner with everybody in the community, and we have had successes in the past, and we've had some fall downs in the past. However, I'm here now, we're here now, we've engaged with you already. As far as responding to things, we respond when we get called. We want you to call, because if you don't call, we don't have 35 deputies driving around at any one time just looking for things to do. We get called to where the problems are. It's just the state of affairs. We don't have a deputy on every corner. If we did, things would probably be either way better or way worse. I don't know. But so we have to respond. If you don't call, that's when the problems are created. So whoever told you not to call 911, I'm telling you personally from me, the boss, that's absolutely not correct. Okay? So everybody here, if there's a problem, call 911. I'll give each and every one of you my card, and if you have any problems with anybody telling you not to call 911, you can call me on my cell phone, and then I'll deal with that as needed. Fair enough?
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or Rob?
I know my husband worked and did the rentals at UAW Local 898, and I know that they had a lot of issues for a while because of the kinds of parties they had. So they changed up the rules. And I know we only have the Eagles on Michigan Ave, Y'all's Club, Local 898, and the Moose are the only places where you could have, graduation parties, weddings, and I know that they turn away lots of folks, and so maybe there's another, because I know part of it is that you need to have people in there to raise the money, and so maybe we could figure out a way, too, that you could reach out to the other locations, so when you have to turn folks away, and you have that reciprocal, kind of arrangements between all those 4 clubs, in our community, so that you can rent to weddings and be filled up and be able, because we don't usually get calls, I won't say always for a wedding. Some of them might be rowdy, but the majority of it, and graduation parties usually, as long as they're during the day and they don't go to, midnight and they're not having alcohol involved with minors and stuff like that, those are usually things that work out. But I know since they stopped allowing, now it has to be only like wedding receptions, showers, birthday, they don't rent for just someone just to have a party or an event, because I know that they had the same issues for a while I remember one incident they had where they were having a 18-year-old birthday party that was like a nightmare. The mom ended up having to call because all the people who came, she didn't know, and there was all kinds of drinking and drugs and stuff going on. And I think that was kind of the last party that they did that was for an 18-year-old that wasn't during the earlier hours, and that kept it open until late. So I know that was a problem too. The later they went, the more trouble they got into. So we want you to be successful. The event places need it. We have so few of those in the community. So we just got to figure out a plan to make that happen. And looks like y'all are ready to do it, and we know we're raining, so I think it's all going to work out. set down the rules of what we're all going to agree on.
If I may, very quickly, there's
Yes.
two more. 3170 West Michigan Avenue. This is between the 94 Expressway ramps and Munger Road. It's a business known as Ann Arbor Auto Care. It's co-located with a Sunoco gas station. They received very strict special conditional use permit from the Planning Commission to run this as a minor auto repair facility. And we've received many complaints from people over the years that they do major auto repairs. One of our code inspectors recently caught them red-handed, if you will, in the act of swapping out engines and transmissions on multiple vehicles, as well as selling vehicles in the lot, which are violations of their special conditional use permit. So we're asking for permission to use legal counsel to remedy this situation. And finally is your motel at 829 East
Yeah,
Michigan Avenue.
That is in front of the Shell's
Shell.
gas station.
Yes.
Well, is it still a Shell?
I thought it was Sunoco, but I could be wrong.
Okay. But original Shell gas station that was approved.
Yes, there's also a car wash, drive-through car wash
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
The final one is your motel at 829 East Michigan Avenue. This has also been the site of numerous violent crimes over the years and recently. And most recently, the Sheriff's Department made us aware that motel management had signed a lease agreement with the Michigan Department of Corrections to house parolees at the hotel. So MDOC essentially has unlimited access to half the rooms at the motel, and they house parolees that are fresh out of prison there for up to 6 months. And the lease agreement reads more like a landlord-tenant lease agreement as opposed to renting a room for the night. And so there appear to be some serious zoning code violations in relation to this arrangement, in addition to the violent crimes. The Sheriff's Community Action Team has been working with the Department of Corrections parole agents, and they do what's called compliance checks. They go to people's homes and wherever parolees live, and they've arrested numerous parolees for drug violations at your motel. And so we would like your authorization to have council's assistance to try to fix this problem permanently.
Yes.
What is the property zoned at now? And that's the first question, actually.
I believe it's B3 zoning, which allows motels.
Okay. And when, I'm assuming, the prisoner reentry program decided to use some of the hotel rooms as residential space for parolees, did they notify the township at all?
No, ma'am. We became aware of it after the Sheriff's Department began visiting those rooms.
Okay.
Your motel room 22, your motel room 24 started showing up on the parole compliance arrest list that we get a copy of from Lieutenant Morocco in our weekly briefings. And so that led to inquiries, and his officers were able to obtain a copy of the lease agreement from management. And that's when we became aware of it.
Okay. And then the last question would be, since they didn't let you know, could it be some people that are inside of that particular facility that may have certain crimes that they may not be able to be around children?
I don't have enough information to speak to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Trustee Rowe.
I would just like to comment. I literally drive past this place every day on my way home, and I'm excited to see that it's on here because, you know, not only is it become a nuisance to our community, but we have to do better for these folks. Like, we can't put them in a place where they're not going to succeed, and that's exactly what we're doing right here. So, you know, I'm hopeful that we can fix this, but also help them find other places in the community that they can reside.
I couldn't agree with you more.
We always help, oh, I'm sorry. We always, it's really Trustee Ross Williams and then Trustee Joe Rowe brought up like excellent points because Supervisor Stumble and I attend all like the urban county meetings and the affordable housing meetings and all those things. And we adopted that great plan that says that we're going to work hard to get folks equity, and that means, you know, more folks living in Ann Arbor where the jobs are, where the transportation's at, where they could be more successful. But we always end up hearing the story like, well, they can't afford it, and we were saying, wouldn't it be better just to take less clients, and spend more money on housing in Ann Arbor where they actually have jobs and transportation to be more successful than just to say, oh, we can house twice as many in Ypsi Township because the rents are so cheap, or because we can get people like this to violate every single rule and law that we have, ordinances on the books. And so it's extremely frustrating because it's government dollars that are being used, whether it's the Department of Human Services or whether it's the Michigan Department of Corrections, that actually never, ever call us and then end up using what we call, we're just a dumping ground because they don't want to spend the money to pay for the rents in areas that would really be much more supportive. There's much more mental, facilities to help with mental issues. All that stuff is in Ann Arbor. It's not here. And so it's an ongoing extreme frustration. We just found out at a meeting last week that they spend over $5 million a year housing people in Ypsilanti Township through Department of Human Services for, people who are homeless. And getting people off the streets and not being homeless is great, but they don't all have to come to Ypsilanti Township or the city of Ypsilanti, so it's really frustrating.
We recently, we know just enough about this program to be dangerous, I think, but in general, the State Department of Correction rules are when you're paroled, which means you are still a state prisoner in state custody, but you're allowed out of the walls to go live in the community, you automatically are sent back to the county where you committed your crime, not the county where you may live prior to being incarcerated. And if you want to be transferred somewhere else other than where you committed your crime, you have to put that request in. And what we've been anecdotally hearing from many sources is that Washtenaw County is widely known in the region as a county with a high degree of human services. And so a lot of parolees who aren't from here, who may not have even committed their crime here, are asking to be sent here because there's services available. Many times they rotate through the Delana Center or other facilities and end up in places like your motel as transitional housing for up to 6 months until they find permanent residence. So through the MPRI program, Michigan Prisoner Reentry Initiative, Catholic Social Services is the subcontractor for the Department of Corrections, and they administer this program where they place people. We do know that they rent several apartments in Ypsilanti Township, in Ypsilanti City, and one in Pittsfield. There are none in any other jurisdiction in the county that I'm aware of. And your motel is now one of those transitional housing locations. So to your point, I couldn't agree more. It's not only bad for the community, it's bad for the parolees.
Yeah, from a zoning standpoint, years ago, the Michigan Department of Corrections tried to locate on the west side a housing place for parolees. And the community and the board said, no, this is just a way to do the same thing that they were told no about. This was approved as a motel.
Yes.
You don't get long-term leases from a motel. You don't use it for the purposes that MDP and Catholic Social Services are using it for. That's just flat out wrong on any...
Yes, and our zoning code does
really,
say...
It's frustrating to know that they would do an end run around it. That's not fair to the community. It's not fair to the parolees. It's just, there's a lot of things that we can do better. This is one.
Our zoning code does say no one person can stay at the same motel more than 30 days in a calendar year. And based on the police reports from the Sheriff's Department, we have evidence that they're staying way longer than that. So, but it's more than just that zoning violation. To your point, Mr. Winters and I have talked extensively, and it's, are you running a motel or are you running an apartment complex?
Well, and the government has done the end round.
Yes.
The state and or the Catholic Social Services probably, I don't know, they probably don't know the zoning law, but I know that the MDOP does.
Yes.
Ms. Kiver?
Thank you.
Well,
My understanding also is at the end of E-Course Road at Michigan Avenue, there's supposed to be a drug house. So that's real convenient for these people who have been incarcerated. That doesn't, to me, give them a good chance. And so I have been told also there's a lot of prostitutes along Michigan Avenue, which does not give them an advantage either. So to me, that's not looking out for the people who have served their time and are trying to do their best. You throw them right into a snake pit.
Well, and you only get a voucher for so many days, and all the service is gone. So, I mean, it's not a good plan for success at all. The next item on the agenda is Residential Services Director to publicly sell 6 desks currently being stored at Ford Lake Park. So in order for local government to dispose of 6 old desks, we have to go through this process. We're required, according to our auditors, you can't just put them up. You can't donate them. You can't do anything. You have to put them out for sale. The next item is to set a public hearing date for creation of a neighborhood camera streetlight special assessment district for the Manors at Creekside Village. The next item is we discussed earlier about purchasing the Ford Explorer for the ordinance officer that will be returning. Under authorization and bids, we have at the request of Chief Copeland to seek sealed bids for the replacement of 2 furnaces and air conditioning units at the fire headquarters located at 222 South Ford Boulevard, and that will be brought back to us, correct?
Yes, it will, Madam Supervisor. This is the second phase, you would say, of the capital improvement plan. We did the first, I think, 2 furnaces last fall, October, and there were a total of 4 units, 4 furnaces and air conditioning units at our headquarters station on Ford Boulevard, and this will be to replace the remaining 2 units there.
All right. Any questions for Chief? All right. That concludes the work session at 6:58, so we'll go right back into the board meeting.